Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Interesting Modelling Co. midweek, the midweek one, the one in the middle of the week. It's midweek. It's the hump, as they say.
The midweek show that was supposed to be a news show, because that's what we were going to do and change it. But John has been otherwise engaged today. I am literally up to my eyeballs in crocodiles who don't seem to want to leave the swamp. So we've kind of got to that point where we're thinking, well, let's just do another chat show and then
we'll do a chat show tonight. And I think the best way of putting it is we'll keep an eye on the comments, and if anybody's got a question, fire a question. We'll pick it out and we'll try and answer. We'll try and answer your correspondence.
Yeah, I think let's do that. Let's have an interactive night so that you can ask a load of questions and all of that sort of stuff. Because we are a little bit. I don't know how John is, but at the moment I don't really know which ends up.
You're a bit. I think it's fair to say, without going into the ins and outs, you're a little bit stretched at the moment. I think it's a good way of putting it. Stretched and stressed.
For the first, without sort of going into too much detail, I had a very important project go very south.
And he's not talking about his haircut either.
Last week. Do you like my haircut, everybody? It's very nice. Last week, because of something that I've talked about before on this show, because of an issue with some product that I was using, which I have used before, but it caused a lot of problems. And what it was I was using some of Tamiya's new lacquer paints, and I'd actually completed the model to the point where it was ready to go, and I sprayed it with a gloss coat, and for some reason, best known to itself, and I don't know whether it was a thinning issue or what it was, the paint that was underneath, the coloured part of the paint, soaked up the gloss and refused to allow the model to be glossed at all, despite the fact that I'd left it for 24 hours to dry. And it got to the point where it was so bad and I was fighting it so much that in the end I just cut it loose and decided the best thing for me to do would be to start from scratch. So I ended up having to strip it right back, and I've lost, which is why I'm looking very stressed at the moment. I've lost 5 days of a very tight deadline, and consequently, I'm really kind of struggling at the moment. So, and it's the first time that's happened. It was not even an incompatibility problem because I used the same gloss with the same paints. There was something not right with the way these paints laid down. So that's what John's talking about, and that's why I've aged at least 5 years since the beginning of last week. But all being well, it will sort itself out, and you will see the results at some point. And you were supposed to see the results a week ago, and that's not happened. So
well, I, on the other hand, had a very relaxing day. I'm actually scheduled to take probably about a week to 10 days off starting around about next week because, in about 8 days' time, it's my birthday. Oh, stop it, people. Stop it. No, please, you're embarrassing me.
I was going to say, does that make you older than me then?
It does.
Well, you are older than me anyway, but I mean, officially, you'll be 54, won't you?
I will be 54. That number doesn't make any sense to me because I'm actually just 18. But anyway,
you're not though, are you? So on record, you will be 54 instead of us both being 53, which is very amusing.
It's ridiculous. So next week I will be starting my my kind of like last year it was like birthday lockdown. So at least this year, hopefully, I can pop out to a few places, relatively speaking. Yes. Keep it safe and everything. However, today I had a very relaxing day today because I popped to Frome, very flying visit because I was a little bit tight for time. But I did have a very nice, yes, very good. I did have a very nice trip to Stanton Drew Stone Circle.
Oh, that's lovely.
A beautifully mysterious place just outside Chew Magna on the very kind of outskirts of North Somerset. And fabulous place. I mean, I've been there loads and loads and loads of times, but it is such a it's really weird because you go there, and despite the fact it's next to a relatively main road and it's on the flight path of Bristol Airport, it's dead quiet. And you kind of walk out there and you can feel the kind of all your stress just go.
It looks lovely. That looks like. So is that near to you then? So when I come down, if when I come down at the end of August and you and I go out to play for a day, we could stop there, couldn't we?
I'll tell you what, yes, because it's just around the corner from that is Book Barn, and Book Barn is like this warehouse where books are kind of like £2 each, and it's a great. And there's also a good there's cafes everywhere. We'll do that. There you go.
Because I'm assuming, bearing in mind, it's likely to be it's either going to be a Thursday or a Friday. I'm not sure, but either way, we could do that and then go to Frome.
We could do. That's a plan. There you go. That's a plan.
Early start. We could go and have breakfast. We could go to the Stone Circle, go to Frome, come back. We could have cake in Frome.
Could have cake in Frome, hopefully.
We could.
Yeah, what's the plan? The story of the state is actually Stanton Drew Stone Circle is actually one of the most important Neolithic stone circles in this country. It's just not. It's probably up there with Avebury and Stonehenge. But I love the local legend behind it because apparently it was a wedding party that were dancing on a Saturday night, and then the musicians stopped. And they said, we're not playing anymore because it's now Sunday. And they said, no, we want music. And then a mysterious fiddler turned up and he said, I'll play it for you. And so they all danced and he played faster and faster and they danced and danced. And then suddenly they all turned and realized the fiddler had cloven hooves and they were all turned to stone for dancing on the Sabbath. A fantastic story. It's just, I love it. I love Somerset. I tell you what, the thing about Stanton Drew is, we'll talk about modelling in a minute, people. The thing I love about Stanton Drew is, on that part of Somerset, as you drive through, first of all, you pass Pagan's Hill, right? Then you pass Chilly Hill Lane. You pass Dark Lane. You've already gone past Hobbs Lane, and anybody who knows anything about mythology, Hob is the Old English word for the devil. And then you can go and have a drink. You can go and have a drink in the Druids Arms.
Wow.
Pub. It's a very odd little place, but I love it. It's fantastic.
Should we talk about some model making at some point? Because I have also something else that I've sort of been working on. And would you like to see what I've sort of been working on in the meantime?
Go on. Oh, good. Yes.
I have a fully assembled, or fully sub-assembled, actually, Picara that's ready to paint. I know Russ is watching this. Hello, Russ. How are you? So, yes. So there it is. Wings done, fuselage done, cockpit's done. Tomorrow, I am going to get up relatively early. And when I say relatively early, I mean very early. And I'm going to
11 o'clock. Yeah.
Oh no. I'll stick some paint on the cockpit of this thing as well, and then, all being well, this thing can be buttoned up, and I can start painting it. It's pretty much that's it. So, I have to say that this is a really nice kit. It does go together really well. There's a couple of little things that I think I'm going to have to adjust slightly. The fit of this is superb, right from start to finish. Everything kind of fits together really well. The wings and the nacelles and everything, there's very little filling, no filling, very little sanding. The one thing I think I will have to do is spread this very slightly in here with just a piece of sprue or something like that, because the joint around the wing root is a little bit off, and I want to maintain that panel line, but I don't really want to fill it. I'm not going to fill it.
I'll tell you what that probably possibly is as well. I mean, if Matt's watching tonight, I don't think he is, but he will probably give a bit more authority with that. But I think sometimes what you find with areas like that is, as the plastic cools, it just shrinks slightly. So it pulls in. And what so do is put a sprue spacer to push the fuselage.
And just push it out. That's all I'm going to do, and then I'm going to run because underneath, the way it fits underneath is, if you can see,
panel type.
Everything fits along panel lines. So the only sanding on this model in terms of the airframe, from what I can see, will be the joint that runs along the top of the fuselage nose, and then a little bit under the rear fuselage, and then the two sides of the nacelles. And the fit there is so tight, it's a matter of just minutes to do that. And then once it goes together, the whole thing everything sort of just drops in on everything else. But it is a really superb kit. We had Russ got in touch with us today who supplied this kit for us to have a play with, and from Jadlam, and they have now got this thing in stock. If anybody wants to put one of these together and have a go, so we'll put the link up for them, and they can you can order it from there. But I really would recommend it. It's just kind of a pugnacious looking thing, isn't it? I mean, it's kind of big as well.
I tell you what. Apparently, I'm a bit echoey tonight. If anybody, Tim Maunder says I'm very echoey. So if there's a bit of a problem with my audio, I can't see what else I can adjust here. But when you hold that model up again, it does remind me of that. I'm trying to think what the jet is. It was a Heinkel twin engine jet from the Second World War. It was like a test aircraft. Can't remember what it was. A Heinkel 115 or something. I can't thingy. It just reminds me of that.
I think this would look good. This would look kind of cool with jet engines. Actually, it would. But I mean, there are turboprop versions of this now, aren't there? I mean, with different turboprops rather than the originals. But I do like it. I like it a lot, and I kind of like the way that this goes together. The other thing about this kit as well is, and I've built a few of Kinetics kits now, is this is almost a perfect beginner's kit as well. I know it's not pocket money prices, but it's in terms of how it goes together and how it fits together and everything. If you'd never built a plastic model kit before, you would have no trouble with this whatsoever. It is literally a perfect kind of beginner's kit. Everything goes together. The only sort of fly in the ointment slightly is that issue with the weight. That's where the undercarriage goes, where my finger is, and that's miles off center of gravity. So you can see that whole tail area there. If I just, that's where the pivot point is. It needs a massive amount of weight, and I have seen completed versions of this thing where they've obviously stuffed the front end. So I think that's going to be a real snag, to be honest. I'm really kind of concerned about that, but we shall see. But yeah, all being well, there'll be some paint on the inside of the cockpit. I have done sort of you can sort of see.
You got a bit juddery there for a moment, Spencer.
Yeah, it could be just I'm near the camera. So you can kind of see how much detail is sort of in there. The other thing about this as well is that cockpit opening is so big. Actually, you could glue this entire model together without touching the cockpit, and then just paint and spray the cockpit in place, which is something I actually thought about doing, to be honest. But there we go. So yeah, so thanks to Jadlam for this. Enjoying it. It is going together, and
Jadlam said could pop into Glastonbury too. Actually, that's not a bad idea. I haven't been to Glastonbury for quite a while. I haven't been to Glastonbury all of 2020 because of COVID. That's I think some kind of grand tour to Somerset in August. That would be fun. Heinkel 280. Thank you, Dave Swindle. He's just pointed me on that. It reminds me a bit of a Heinkel 280. Well, this is a bit of a surprise, you see, because I haven't told you about this, and I haven't told anybody about this because I actually bought a model today, despite the fact I've got pile of things to do. I bought this because A, it's an aeroplane I like. There's a clue, it's an aeroplane. And B, it's a new kit and a manufacturer that I know nothing about. So I took some photographs before the show tonight. But I have the box here, and it is Dream Model 72nd scale F5E Tiger. Now it's a toss-up between this or the two-seater. Having got this home now, it's awesome, but I wish I got the two-seater. So we will on the next trip there. I've got to go back to the shop at some stage because the model that I meant to drop off there today for the window display, I left at home in the office. Sorry, Luke. But I was on a bit of a rush today, so I do need to have a proper trip out there and just have like a bit of a more relaxed thing. Anyway, let me call up Lay Pictures. Because share screen, here we go, application window. Right, there we go. That's taken off the Dream Model Facebook page, but all the rest of the pics, most of the pics here are all mine. So this cost me round about 25 of your British pounds. What you get is one sprue, he said, trying to get them up, one sprue, which this is kind of universal across the single and the twin seat versions. The wings are moulded to the lower fuselage, and the upper parts of the wings are all in place. So what you've got there are the tail planes and the wings moulded in situ in their entirety. So that instantly chops out a lot of tedious kind of, work with seams and everything. Speeds up construction as well. As you can see from this sprue, there are also sidewinders, there are some LGBs, drop tanks, most of the undercarriage bits, pylons, everything. As I say, this is pretty much the universal sprue between the single and the twin seaters. Then you get the parts for the nose. They do an RF, or they are doing, I think, an RF 5E kit. You'll notice that, you'll see this a bit later on, that there are two kinds of nose cone. There is the pointed one and the platypus one, which is rather cool because that opens up a lot of options as well. The instrument panel and the side consoles are flat and devoid of any moulded detail. That does not bother me because, frankly, in this scale, you could argue that decals are actually more to scale, really. If you're really that bothered by it, you can put some photo etch in there or whatever. I tend to be firmly of the opinion that at this scale, doing instrument panels and side consoles as decals is perfectly acceptable, and it's a cost. It's a cost that manufacturers don't have to bear, putting in detail that, frankly, modelers who are fastidious enough will still replace with photo etch or resin. So why go to all that expense, really? Controversial, but there you go. There's also, rather bizarrely in my kit, there were two upper fuselage spines. Now I need to go away and do some research on this just to see whether there was like a shape error in one and they've included a corrected one. I'm not sure what's going on there, but there were two in my kit anyway, and they were separately bagged, so it's there for a reason. So I'll go and have a look at that. Then you get another sprue with some tanks and some bombs. Then you get a tiny photo etched sheet with some lap straps, and I don't know what the other bit there, that bit at the top there, is for, but I'll find out once I actually go through the instruction sheets. Surface detail is lovely. It is that right amount of deep for me that it will take paint, but it will also hold a wash rather nicely. Bear in mind that in these photographs I have super ramped up the contrast, everything on this in order to get the detail to pop out. It is not as kind of deep or exaggerated as this. That is the camera telling fibs as usual, but the detail is absolutely exquisite. And as you can see there on the nose, it is on the nose. It is really, really nicely done. You can see the undercarriage parts there and parts of the wheels. Detail is super. It's really crisp. I'm genuinely impressed. And as I say, this wasn't given to me. I actually bought this because I like the F5 as a family, and I've been curious about these kits anyway, and I wanted to bring something onto the show to talk about as well. There we go. So there's the two different nose codes, the pointed one and the platypus one. So that, you can do Swiss ones and all the other kind of variations in between. So that's a nice touch in this scale. It's not massively complicated, as you can see here. There's the it does actually include. Oh, it's just the. I think I've downloaded the instructions for the twin seater. Whoops, door. But anyway, it's pretty much the same for the single seater. It's really not that complicated at all. And in fact, the instruction sheet is literally one sheet of paper with two sides. That's it. Nothing else. There's that photo etch part that seems to go. It's an aerial on the underside of the fuselage. There we go. Solve that problem. And then you get a super awesome decal sheet, which, you'd be paying kind of like, £10 for this as an aftermarket decal sheet. It's beautifully done. The only slight problem was that the roundels for the Iranian ones were all a bit out of kilter, which is a shame because everything else is absolutely pin sharp on this. It's the registration is absolutely spot on. You get options for 8 aircraft. So you can do a rather nice Thai one in 2 tones of grey. You can do a Republic of Korean one in 2 shades of grey. A lovely US Air Force one in silver yellow bands. You can do a US Navy one, Aggressor Squadron one with red star and bar. You can do the Top Gun MiG-28. You can do the Iranian or the Irian Air Force one, and there is another US Air Force Aggressor one in camo, and there's a US Navy Aggressor aircraft in desert camo with a shark mouth. I have to say, I am really, really impressed with this kit, and I think it's fantastic value for 25 quid.
Yeah, that looks good, doesn't it? It really does. It follows from looking at the photographs there, and it's the first time I've seen those photographs, but it follows closely the design and breakdown of the AFV 48 scale kit as well. You can kind of see sort of parallels between them, including that sort of lower fuselage breakdown, the single part upper fuselage, and those two being split horizontally, whereas the nose is split vertically. I like the fact that they've given you the 2 noses as well, that platypus nose and the pointed nose, because that gives you sort of options for earlier and later versions of that. I was only actually looking at some photographs of F5s from Alconbury in the late 70s, early 80s, and there were some really nice color schemes from there. I know a lot of the newer kits are offering color schemes for sort of later aggressor ones, including that one which looks like it's got, is it VCF 111?
VCF 111, yeah.
Yeah, the Sundowners essentially, which has been a part and parcel. Go back to the V Club kit; it is in there as well. So yeah, but it is nice. It is a shame though that they haven't. I know they give you 8 versions. It is a shame that there isn't sort of one of those earlier snake schemes or whatever they were called back then. But I would imagine it's probably fairly easy to replicate those with aftermarket.
Aftermarket ahoy for this one.
Yeah,
I'm actually I'm really stuck on which one I want to do, because I really quite fancy doing that silver one with the yellow bands. But then I also like that 2-tone. I've forgotten which one it was now. Was it Thai? Yeah, it was the 2-tone grey one. It's, oh dearie me, I'm stuck on which to build.
I would, if you were going to go for one, I would go for the aluminium and yellow one, the sort of pseudo Korean War scheme. I think that's really, really lovely, and it's. I think it suits that aircraft, that color scheme. But yeah, the 2-tone grey scheme is quite pleasing, isn't it?
It's subdued but subtle.
Yeah, as far as the inclusion of the Top Gun MiG, oh god, it's just like, really, do we need that? Honestly, but the other choices look to be really nice.
It is a really, the decal sheet in there, as you saw, is really, really nicely done. As I say, the one that actually kind of leapt out of me was, I can't actually do the Iranian one. No, the decals are all out of register.
Did you have a look when you were looking at the parts? I think Colin has mentioned about the shrinkage. Is there any shrinkage on the upper wings?
Yeah, let's have a look.
That's a tight old lid.
Isn't it just? See what sorry, just to go back to the decal sheet again. It's a small sheet, but they cram it in there.
Yeah.
Let's have a look. Oops. Actually, no. No, I'm just looking at the upper wings at the moment, and that's all tickety boo. There's no sign of any shrinkage or any perhaps a little bit inboard on the wing root, but I get the funny feeling that where they've extended that plastic in a little bit more is when you pop the upper fuselage in place.
Yep.
That it effectively, pretty much effectively hides it. We will have to wait and see what it looks like when I actually start building this thing, but it's not. It doesn't leap out as it doesn't look like a really kind of
Yeah.
hi ho, we're on the ocean waves. If there's a little bit, but yeah, fuselage rippling.
Yes. 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 The aircraft modeller's equivalent of cover it in mud. Put some ripples in it and do all of that. Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple of the old monogram F5s, two seaters, the F5F, and the sinkage on the top of those wings has certainly affected that. And I don't know what you're like, but dealing with sinkage on flat surfaces like wings, just a horrific amount of work to try and get those all smoothed out, especially if the sinkage is kind of is not kind of ideal. Speaking of which, do you remember on Sunday we were having a chin wag, weren't we, about privateers, Matchbox privateers?
All right. So when you say privateers, I thought you may have been referring to members of my family who several hundred years ago were actually Cornish seagoing pirates.
Oh, really?
Which whenever I tell people that, they just look at me and go, "That does not surprise me in the least."
Do you know, I have to say, it doesn't really surprise me either. So I have a box. A box here. And we were chatting away, weren't we, on Sunday about priming, which seems to have caused a degree of consternation. And I do feel like I could sort of audibly hear the click of the landmine as I trod on it. And I sort of just stood there for quite a long time as I sort of went into what was obviously a very sensitive subject with a lot of people. Anyway, so privateer. So I've been working on this this Matchbox privateer for how long is it now? 3 years?
At least your 20s, yeah.
Yeah, it's quite a while, isn't it? I think I'm only beaten in the length of the project by David Parker and his Panzer IV. This is a far less difficult model to put together. But anyway, we were sort of talking about using primers and everything. And this is a good example of that. You can see that this is kind of grey in colour. And the reason that it's grey, it's covered in Tamiya's fine surface primer. But what I did in this case, rather than sort of using it as a primer coat for putting paint over the top of, this was actually used so that I could scribe into it. So it was sprayed with several layers of primer, and also going back to the issue with Tiger 2s and their upper wings. On this, if anybody's built one of these things have got very deep wheelbays, as you can see there, and that wheelbay has got a load of cross-hatched detail on it, and it causes an inordinate amount of sinkage on that upper panel there, and you can almost trace where the wheelbay is. And I've got a virgin Matchbox kit that was molded in this early 80s when this kit came out, late 70s, early 80s when this kit came out, and it also has that. So it's not actually down to Revell's problems with molding these parts. But what it allowed me to do was it allowed me to build up a layer that I could then kind of scribe and also rivet into. So it's probably almost impossible to kind of see this, but you might be able to see the detail that's on the surface of that. That detail isn't in the plastic. That detail's in the primer on this. And I've got here, this is the nose. If anybody's built one of these kits, and unless you really love the privateer, which I do, you probably haven't, I would think. But if you've built one of these kits, you'll know that this fuselage is actually in 3 sections. It's got a front end, mid-section, this bit here, and a tail section. And that allows different versions to be made. This panel here is an insert that goes in, and it allows the British one that didn't have any turrets or anything. Did it carry Churchill around for a while? Carried one of those people. And so basically what I had to do is I glued these parts together, and then I put this model aside for 12 months to set. because I knew that if I didn't do that, I would get ghost seams all over the place. So you can kind of see the nose now, where that's kind of settled down, and I've started to kind of scribe detail into this. That's how it looks currently. You can see that's how it looks with, can you see that?
Barely.
See the panel lines?
Oh yeah, just a bit, yeah.
You can see it now. Okay, so I scribed into the grey primer, and although that leaves you with a degree of nervousness when you're doing this, it just means it kind of shows everything up, and if you do make a mistake, you sand the primer back and you can respray it and then redo it. Whereas if you're scribing into the plastic and you make a mistake, then you've got to fill it. And so you're not filling anything when you're scribing primer. You'll just get rid of it and then sand it. So at the moment, I've got a kind of half built privateer, which has been dogging me for a while. But I've also got a number of other things that kind of go with this: gun barrels, more gun barrels, and some propellers and all that sort of stuff. Biggest problem with this kit is that the way that Matchbox molded it, they molded the engines the way that they're molded. They're sort of basically stuck onto a flat panel, and they're quite thick at the back. So you get no impression of the cooling doors on either side of the nacelles. So it's taken me a huge amount of time to work out how to deal with that, and how to kind of mill out. That's sort of milling out the cowlings on this thing and thinning them out, and then how do I mount that piece onto
with nothing to actually as a mating surface,
and also to allow it to, so that it looks, you can see it there, so that it looks like it's stepped away rather than it just being flush against the sort of the bulkhead. And I think I've come up with a system. It's not ideal, but it does mean there's some sort of tricky filling, and you can kind of see it on there. This should be flush across the top here, where it mounts across the top of that part of the nacelle, and that's why it's stalled really. And it's one of those examples of a model that my sort of desire to build it is stumped slightly by how I get around that particular problem, other than using other nacelles. But the privateers nacelles they're not B24 Liberator nacelles that are turned on their up 90 degrees. They're not like that. They're different. So it's not like I can just raid an Academy kit and just glue them on differently, because the upper and lower intakes, these faces here, they're actually different sizes from what I can see. One is smaller than the other. So I thought I'd kind of sort of discuss that a bit further after we'd sort of spoken about it on Sunday night, and how sometimes using a material that it's not engineered for, in this case primer, to be kind of used on a model, sometimes can open up other possibilities. At some point I'll build that thing, because I've actually got some of Jean-Pierre's beautiful decals. There's a very good decal sheet for it, and of course, I mean, it goes without saying, of course it's going to be a French one in overall blue. Why would I do any other colour scheme, really? Despite the fact that it's got those that's the colour scheme there. It's just lovely, isn't it? And it's sort of, and it's based on those Matchbox adverts, of which you and I have talked about those Matchbox adverts many times on the show, haven't we? And we've mentioned a number of adverts: the Tiger Moth, the Puma, Lancaster, the Hayford, the Privateer. Okay, yeah. We've mentioned those, haven't we? I came across some more that I'd not seen the other day. Do you remember that they did the Surtees? That Ted Taylor built the little 24 scale Surtees racing car from that range. That was one of the adverts as well.
And that's a rarity.
It's hugely rare, and I was kind of like, ooh. And they did the Hanomag as well. That was another one. Little 70-second scale Hanomag was one, and as was the little 70-second scale Panzer 2. Have we missed some? Did they create lots more than we know?
I'll have to scan them and put them up online.
Yes, I hope. Very strange.
Apparently, we're having audio problems here tonight because I've tried turning echo cancellation off, and apparently I then go very much quieter than Spencer. I can hear myself echoing, and I don't know why, because all my audio here is buttoned up. I've got headphones on, the connections on the microphone are all, it's the same old microphone, but I can, if I go 1 2 1 2 1 2, I can hear myself echoing, and I don't know what is causing that echo.
Do you have your buds?
No, they're around here somewhere, but I shouldn't be having a problem because there is no. I don't know where the feedback is coming in on here because it's not like the headphones are picking up my audio. In fact, what I have done is I've turned the audio right down on the MacBook so that, you know, I don't know what's going on. So apologies, everybody, if you can hear. Yeah, we get your echo too.
So if I turn my microphone down,
yeah,
okay, and you turn echo off and turn yours up, are we at a similar level?
I think about 1 2 1 2. And that's
hello.
weird. Is the echo seems to be going now that you've turned your microphone down.
So
I think what is happening is that because your earbuds and your microphone are very close to each other. I think your microphone is actually picking up the sound in your earbuds. My sound in the earbuds. It seems to have gone now. A little bit there.
Can somebody say whether or not John's audio has disappeared? Whether the issues have disappeared if he puts it.
Well, I'm still got echo. I've still got echo. It isn't bad at all. I've got echo. I've got get my teeth in him. I've got echo cancellation on. If I turn echo cancellation off, it automatically adjusts the mic volume, which suddenly makes
go back to the way you were before.
What, with echo cancellation back on again?
Yep. How are we sounding now? John's is better. Oh, well, there we go. Well, let's try that then, shall we? And see how that.
Okay. I can also adjust, but I can turn the microphone volume up. So I've got the microphone volume up to 140. So it's manual microphone volume. 1 2 1 2. No echo. Anyway, look, we'll move on because we'll wait to see what people say. But I've turned the microphone volume up. So anyway, I also bought something else today, and this is like live unboxing because whatever you did the trick. Excellent. Okay, because I also bought today a little known manufacturer you may not have heard of. They go by the name of Mini Art, and it is German infantry weapons and equipment set. Look at all that you get. Isn't that fabulous array of gear? You get helmets and everything.
How does it look in the
$11.99? That's ridiculous.
How does it look in the box? Does it look?
It's still cellophane wrap. This is going to be live on the internet.
On the interwebs.
On the interwebs, an actual what they call an unboxing. So. So I don't count this as buying kits because this is accessories.
That's like going out for a meal and saying, you know what, I'm on a diet, but it doesn't matter as long as I eat your food.
But beer doesn't count as calories. Yeah, I know.
No, that's very true. As I proved to myself the other night.
Yeah, I'm just glad that Froome didn't have too many of these accessory sets there because I filled the boot of the Mini, quite frankly. Hey, look at this. Look. Wow. You get a colour guide for everything, but they also put on that colour guide maps and things.
Is that actually on the instruction sheet?
Yeah, German magazines and German maps.
Oh, that is so cool.
Isn't that fantastic? You again, this is something you'd be paying for as an accessory.
From a certain Verlinden Productions.
I'm sure the proportion of parts to box.
It could have been a far smaller box, couldn't it?
Let's be honest. I don't mind that because, again, that nice big box actually acts as a nice painting guide.
Yeah, it does.
And on the back, they give you variations of German helmets. There's the assembly sequences, insignia, everything. So what you do get... Oh, hello. Hello. I think you get some photo etch bits in this. What you get is... You get these sprues. Oops, daisy. They are not repeats. They are all different sprues. There's a bit tangled up there. Slide molded. Slide molded helmets. Look at that. That's effectively it. But it's beautiful. It's absolutely stunning, the level of detail on this. It's, yeah, wow. That is Christopher Walken. Wow.
I have to say, you showed a remarkable degree of self-control.
No, I thought I'd save this live. Well,
only buying one mini art kit.
Yeah, well, and also a sheet of photo etch.
What's on the sheet?
I think it's things like straps, kind of like epaulets for uniforms.
Really?
Yeah. Just little bits and pieces. Do you know what? That, and I bought this. I wasn't given this. I bought this. That is insane value for money at 12 quid.
12 quid.
That is just... I mean, this is why I love mini art. Is, it's the moulding quality is superb, but just getting a photo etch sheet, you get a sheet of decals, and as I say, a little thing of that as well.
I'm loving that.
Magazine covers and stuff. That's a win as far as I'm concerned. There we go. The photo etch bits are for things like the straps on the guns, handles on the canteen, stuff like that. But as I say, this I don't count as a kit, because this you just go in and grab what you need for a particular project or projects, and then that's it. But yeah, heaven forbid any model shop stocks more than 10 boxes of these things, so I'll just be like,
just like that. Wandering out handfuls of mini art
it was with great restraint this afternoon, and it was only because I've got so many other projects to be getting on with at the moment. What I don't want to be doing is kind of putting money down for things that's just going to be expensive loft insulation at the moment. They did have some of those Gecko 35th scale British trucks, some of the I think they're Morris trucks or something, I can't remember. I saw them in the window. They've also got that amusing hobby Centurion Pioneer Pioneer vehicle, the one with the bulldozer we spoke about on the show.
Yes, yeah.
I was almost, Luke's going to love me for this, because I was like, I walked out the shop and I thought, I'm going to go back in there and get that, and I thought, no, you have got this to be building at the moment, and that is going to be taking a certain amount of time, and I've got those other little projects to finish off. So
what does that Avery retail for, if you don't mind me asking?
Do you know what? I'm just going to go to the Fluid Model Centre. Let's have a quick look. And let's just do amusing hobby. That's not how you spell amusing, boy. That's amusing music hobby. Because they also had the amusing hobby Focke-Wulf Triebflügel as well, the 48 scale one. It was only 25 quid, and I was like, stop tempting me with things. And the amusing hobby Strabacran as well, just the crane itself, and it's it's right. I'm just on the website here at the moment, and we are. I get the funny feeling it's so new. It's probably only just come in that it's not actually listed on the website at the moment. Okay, we're just going to go general. Talk amongst yourselves for a couple of seconds whilst I amusing hobby century. It's a Barv, isn't it?
Yeah. Avery.
A-V-R-E. Avery. Centurion Avery. I'm seeing numbers are coming up here. They're all around about £50-ish mark. But
that's good value, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a lot of bits in this kit though.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's probably about 600 million pieces, of which of which infinity are the tracks.
724 trillion parts.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was somebody had posted a photograph up on Twitter today and said, I'm about to build the new or the recently released Revell Bismarck, the 350th scale one, and it's got like 2,000 parts. I was like, oh, it's 2,000 parts. And then I thought, well, it's a battleship. Of course, it's got lots of parts. It's a huge thing. Speaking of which, and I'm surprised that we haven't been more excited about this on this show than we have. I've been noticing there's an awful lot of 35th scale gun turrets coming out from ships.
Yes.
And they look really cool, don't they? And also, they're just monstrous kits. I mean, massive things to build and paint. I'm sure I saw one from the Yamato the other day, and somebody had done a kind of a review of it and was sort of building it, showing it was on a website somewhere, and somebody had decided that what they were going to do was they were going to build this gun turret, but they were going to surround it by all these crew figures. And it just looked absolutely sensational. Really impressive, for something that's essentially a big box with 3 guns sticking out the front of it. But isn't it nice that we're starting to see kits of that kind of thing coming out rather than just, armor or aircraft or whatever? Because it's the possibilities are legion for something like that, aren't they? For you, if you wanted to build more of the deck or weather and paint them and that kind of thing. And I have to say, and there's also a number of missile launchers, defensive missile launchers that are coming out,
things like that.
Yeah.
Apparently, we're still having audio problems here. Some people are saying I sounded better with echo cancellation off, and now people are saying switch the echo cancellation back on again. So, we'll soldier on for a few more minutes and see. I've just manually turned the volume up on the microphone again, so we'll wait to see what that does. It's TACOM, do the 1/72 scale Yamato turret. It's a big
and it
old
looks
ship.
really fabulous. It's just one of those kind of really cool kits, big old thing.
Steve Moores makes the observation: if Mini Art boxed up some liquid plastic and some Play-Doh and said "make your mould," Joan would buy a dozen. MA fanboy. Yeah, pretty much.
Yes, it literally is his favourite manufacturer. He's just, he's unashamedly loves Mini Art.
I do, but what have I built of theirs? I've built one tractor and a figure. But I was going through their 2021 catalogue today, and it's just like, I want that, and I want that, and I want that, and I want that, and it's just like, this is ridiculous.
I've got to say, in terms of a manufacturer, and we've talked about this on our Sunday night show, is there a more progressive manufacturer currently than Mini Art? Because Mini Art have carved quite a niche for themselves in providing these accessory sets for modelers to be able to use for dioramas. And just when you think that they're not going to come out with something original, they come out with something else, and it's just like, yes, whoever it is that's making the decisions is obviously an embedded diorama builder who has thought to himself, you know what, I need these things for my models. What can I get them to produce for us? And I think that they're and not only are they beautifully produced, because the diorama accessories are often collaborative packages, really, between you almost get the idea that if they produce a diorama accessory, it's going to appear in a full kit somewhere along the line. Barrels was one of them with the trucks and those kind of things, cable reels and all that sort of stuff. But they're brilliant value for money, and also they're beautifully detailed and really nicely molded as well. They are. I bought a bunch of these, which I've not used actually. I bought a bunch of these a couple of years ago with the idea of using them, including the cable reels. But they are really beautiful. They are superb kits.
I've just turned echo cancellation back on. I can hear myself echoing again because people are saying that echo cancellation on, I was quieter with no echo. Echo cancellation off, louder with echo. But other people are saying on was better. I don't know what's going on, people. We'll work it out one way or the other. I was looking at some of the buildings they do, and it's like you can almost do an entire project just using mini art products, just
Yes.
everything, figures, and like I say, there's still a relatively unknown quantity because I haven't built that many of their kits. So it's just an interesting thing to explore. But as I say, that I'm absolutely staggered that you get. Okay, the size of the box is slightly disproportionate to the actual contents, but what you're getting in there in terms of the photo etch, the decals, the printed instructions with the maps and the magazine covers, and the actual bits and pieces you're getting in there, you're getting everything that's on the front there, you're getting in that box. I just think that's absolutely staggering, and that's why I would go back and buy an equivalent set for British, American, you name it. I would just buy them all the time. So, like I say,
I mean, certainly I'm intrigued to see what they're like, because the slings for the rifles and for the guns, that's something that does interest me quite a bit, I have to say. And you could.
I was going to say, but it was. I'm trying to think who it was. I'm just scrolling through the comments here. Hello to everybody who's watching tonight. Goodness me, I've forgotten who it was I was talking about this. They were saying that they wanted to try on a bucket list thing is actually try a mini art tank with a gazillion part interior, and what did they think they should go for? And I went through the catalogue and I thought, oh blimey, what would I go for? What would I want to build? And I'm kind of gravitating towards either one of the Lees or one of the Grants with the interiors.
Yeah, that would be what I would do. I think I would probably do a Lee, actually. I love the Lee.
But then I like Panzer IVs, and it's one of those things I do at some stage, and it's the interesting modeling co motto here, if not now when, is
Yes,
I do need to invest an inordinate amount of time building and painting stuff that won't be seen. But it will be seen because it will be catalogued during a build process, so that old modeler cliche. I know it's there, but it's just that challenge. It's just I remember this is going back, squinty years, 11 squinty years to as a kid when I actually had I don't know, we probably got it in Cordings in Wokingham. It was the Nitto Tiger 1. It's the Tiger 1 with the air filters on the outside and everything. You got vinyl to do the tubing for the air filter. Anyway, the thing that blew me away was this was a 72nd scale tank kit with an interior. So even though, I was 6 at the time, I absolutely, completely useless at doing that kind of thing. But a few years later, I did get hold of a Nitto, what was it? It was a Panzer IV. And again, it came with an interior. And it was just, even though that interior wasn't going to be visible, ultimately, there was just that satisfaction of building it and painting it. And I did do that 2 years ago with the new Italeri T34, which comes with a pretty comprehensive interior. At least with that, there was the ability to actually, you could take the turret off so you could actually see inside, for display purposes, take the turret off so you could see inside the vehicle. And also you could leave various hatches and things open so you could see more of what you'd done. But there was a certain level of satisfaction in doing all that stuff, even though a lot of it would ultimately not really be that well seen on the model. And it's a perverse kind of, it's a perverse and inverse amount of kind of effort to reward, because you've done all that work, you're not going to say any of it. But as I say, sometimes you just got to go down that avenue. There is a certain amount of satisfaction in painting interiors and doing the weathering and painting shells and just doing all that kind of gubbins, even if the only record you're going to have of it ultimately is just the photographs and the memory. But
yeah, it's an interesting debate. I think that idea of, I know it's there. I've done it. I've had the satisfaction of kind of knowing it's there. An interesting kind of debate about all of that sort of stuff. And I was chatting to my son today. I had a conversation. We were talking about football, and we were talking about why this will lead on to onto model making, so please bear with me if you think I'm going off talking about football. And why it was that this season is different from any other season. And we were chatting about how it was that certain footballers react to the empty stadiums better than others, and why it is that certain footballers haven't played as well this season as they did last season. And my son will forgive me for telling you, he works for the FA, so he works with footballers, and so he was saying, well, you know, part of it is that some footballers thrive on the crowds being on top of them, on the abuse, on the energy that they get from that. He says, and you're actually not that different from them. And I said, well, why is that? And he said, well, you thrive on affirmation. You build models, and you have done for 30 years, to be seen by others. And if you built models for yourself, would you get the same satisfaction? And would it be something that you could, that you would get the same results if you were only doing it for yourself and nobody else saw it? And if I'm honest, I think the answer to that is no, absolutely not. And I think I do thrive on the affirmation, but that is a kind of double-edged sword, because everything you build is then judged and looked at kind of in like microscopic detail. If I was building, I would build, I build a lot of, obviously build a lot of models for photographs. If I wasn't building them for photographs, would I pay as much attention to interiors, for instance, as I do? And the answer to that is no. I remember building a couple of years ago, I built two 32nd scale Tamiya Corsairs. When they first came out, and there's loads of detail inside the cockpit, and there's loads of detail underneath the consoles, effectively in the wells of the model, and that detail can't be seen on the completed model. If you look through the cockpit, you can't really see it. And yet I painted it and spent an inordinate amount of time putting that together and painting it and weathering it and everything, because I knew it had to be photographed. Had I not taken those photographs, had I not had to take those photographs, there's no way I would have painted that. There's no way I would have detailed it. There's no way. I know myself well enough. I would have just gone, what can I see? And, you know, everything else I'll just paint in a flat color, and that'll be it. And we had a similar conversation, didn't we, about painting the underside of your tanks. You flip a model over. Do you paint the underside of a tank? I don't, which I agree is a highly contradictory thing. But my assumption,
it's painted, but what I do there is I use the underside of the model to test out mixes and things.
Yes, and I kind of thought, well, yeah, I just, and I think my figure is for that is, who's going to pick my model up and turn it upside down to have a look at it? And as I don't compete anymore, unless somebody puts a mirror underneath it and goes, well, you haven't painted underneath it, I kind of don't see the point. I really don't. And you know, it's the same as when I was putting together the Macarva. I chatted about this to you a couple of weeks ago. I worked out what I'd be able to see behind those side skirts and what I wouldn't be able to see. And I worked on the basis that I can just assemble that without cleaning it up, because you're not going to be able to see it anyway. As long as you see the faces of the wheels behind the skirts and whatever else happens in there, why am I wasting my time cleaning up 6 sets of suspension units at the back of there? And I wonder whether that is as the result of me being lazy, inherently lazy, or whether that's the result of me being efficient, whether I need the efficiency of getting it finished quickly. I haven't quite legislated in my own head which one of those two things there are, although I have a suspicion that those two things are possibly equally balanced in my kind
and you see
day.
the exception to the painting the undersides thing is that on tanks I can't be bothered. Even actually on the road wheels is I will go to great lengths to paint and weather the outer parts of the road wheels, but the inner parts can't be bothered.
No, you just don't see them, do you?
But the exception to that of painting undersides and everything, the exception to that is when I'm building things that have wheels. So if it's something like, if it's like a Jeep, or if it's like an M3 Scout car, or if it's, you know, a Toyota truck, I've got that main Toyota truck that I will get around to. Actually, it's finished to just do the diorama. That's the one Tim dropped. No, he didn't drop it. I was showing it to him and I dropped it. And it smashed on the floor. And I looked at Tim and I said, now look what you've done. And Tim sat at home laughing at that now. But the point is, they're trucks. They have open chassis. They have all those leaf springs. They have all that suspension and everything. Yeah, I will paint that. I will paint that and I will weather that, because it's intrinsically it's detail, whereas the undersides of tanks just tend to be kind of lumps. They do, I'd say, occasionally do include nice hatches and rivets and and hatches and bolts and stuff, but I don't know what it is. There's not the same kind of urgency, or there's not the same kind of currency to actually do that on a tank. Whereas because I think it's because the designers of a kit have put so much work into all that suspension and everything, I'm duty bound to actually do something with it. So
I think it's always because I've always sort of looked at everything in the round. I've never been that interested in interiors, certainly in tanks, because most of the models that I've built have got crew in them. So the crew take precedence over the interior. I do admire people that do that and put some of the detail in there. I mean, David Parker is a very good example. I mean, it is the ultimate example.
I admire his stamina to still be working on a single model months, if not years later. I might get round to writing an op-ed about this at some stage, or it's something we can discuss on the show at some stage. I definitely have a cut-off point whereupon if I feel there's a cut-off point where I think I need to finish this and move on now.
I think my cut-off point is around about 3 months. I think I've spent about 3 months on that Harrier, and I was literally at my wit's end, and I wanted it off my bench.
This is why I like the 10-day challenges to some extent, because 10 days sometimes can feel like an extravagant amount of time to finish something, to build and paint and finish something. Actually, sometimes it can be really quite a painfully short period of time. Even with those Panthers we built, you kind of like, you sit there, you build it, and it's like, right, this, got 10 days. I'm going to sit down and start gluing this thing together. Half an hour later, right, I've done it. Everything is off the sprues. It's done. Yes. But then you suddenly discover that 10 days to do to shoehorn in all the tricks and things that you know or you think you know isn't enough.
Yeah, it really is an odd. It is an odd thing, because for me, what I want is the completed model. I want to be able to look at an artifact. All of that. That's where the journey comes. And I've discussed this before, and I've discussed it elsewhere. We talked about weathering, didn't we, on Sunday, and how I have a love-hate relationship with weathering. Some days I'm okay with it, other days I loathe it. Certain things I do love. I love the assembly, and I love decals in the main, and and I love final construction and bringing it all together. That's the payoff to me. I use the analogy that for a lot of this, especially when projects drag, it's a bit like standing in front of the hob stirring stock into a risotto. I don't really enjoy the 25 minutes or whatever it takes me to create a risotto. I want to eat the meal. So if I tell
you what, mate, you should try making chutney, mate. You're 2 hours. You're 2 hours in the kitchen stirring it to stop it from sticking to your pan.
There you go. But you don't enjoy the stirring. You enjoy eating the chutney.
I do. No, I enjoy the stirring.
And frankly, I'd enjoy eating the chutney if somebody would give me some of that.
Do you know what? I'm trying very much here not to turn into smashing and nicey. But do you know what, mate? Got 50 jars of that salted away. I should still be making more chutney this year. But you know my Christmas chutney. The older it gets, better it tastes.
Yes, I'm sure. And so that's really the issue with lengthy projects. And now I know we've got some friends on here, and I think one is watching
we have
this,
a few, yeah,
and who discussed this very same thing only last week. Created a beautiful model, and it was spectacular. Now that it's spectacular, now it's finished. But I get the sense that it took him longer than he wanted to take on it, and as a result of that, he stopped enjoying the ride. He stopped. It was too much, and I sort of agree with that. I like to be able to do things and get them sort of done and look at them. The journey's not always the most enjoyable thing to me. What is enjoyable is the completed thing, and that's why I always talk about model making and buying kits. When people talk about kits being too expensive, that's why I always say, well, it's a 3-stage process buying a kit. It's you're buying the kit, you're entertaining yourself by putting it together, and then you've got something to look at and display and put up there. For me, the payoff to all of this work, to all of this studio, the office, all of that kind of thing, the payoff is having a model I can look at and see finished. And I think that's possibly why we all, I remember, I remember going to model shops when I was a kid and seeing them in the display case. In fact, on Monday, I went to eModels in Stoke-on-Trent. eModels is an online retailer. They're pretty local to me, and so I can do click and collect. And I went and got some paint. And in the display case at the front of their unit, they got one of the MPC 22-inch Eagles in the case, and it was beautifully made. Absolutely, this thing was stunning to look at. I was like, wow, that is fabulous. I kind of looked at it and went, I want one now. I want one of those. I want to build mine. And it was one of the first times in a while where I've looked at a model and gone, yeah, I want one of those. I want to have one of those that I can hold.
That's honestly, I think at some stage that Eagle challenge, I think, like I say, the problem we have is because we have things we have to build, is the things that we want to build do have to get pushed aside sometimes. And I know that certainly doing, I think, an Eagle challenge, it would just be, I'd love that, because it would be right. Yes, finally I get to sit down and build that Eagle.
Yeah,
and watch Space 1999.
Well, that is proving to be you and I both work on projects that we cannot talk about often. We do that's part and parcel of the job. We do, and part of that as well means that our personal projects get put aside. I haven't built anything for myself since I finished the Tornado at the end of November last year. And we're almost 5 months into this year, and things start to sort of roll. And that Eagle is one of those. I bought it in a flurry of excitement. Oh, finally, I've got this Eagle kit and everything. I think I pre-ordered it as well and ended up waiting about a year for the thing to arrive. And when it arrived, I sort of looked at it and went, yeah, it's kind of cool. But I never did anything else with it. But then when I saw this model on Monday, I was like, oh man, it's massive. I mean, 22 inches, it's a big model, and I can see that. I can see that on the display shelf. I would
go to IKEA and get myself a whole brand new display cabinet just to have that as the centerpiece.
Yeah, it's just beautiful.
It's
beautiful. So perfect as a replica of the studio miniatures as well. It really is fabulous.
They do a Hawk to accompany it, don't you, in the same scale?
They do. Yeah, the Hawk is 72nd scale. It's smaller. It matches their 72nd scale Eagle. Yeah, no, it's smaller.
I thought they did a 48 scale Hawk.
No, it's 72nd scale, I think. Because they did a 72nd scale Eagle, and then they did a 72nd scale Hawk, which is quite a bit cheaper. I don't know if they were ever going to do a 48 scale. The 48 scale Hawk would be studio scale, and that would be 22. That would be at 24 inches as well.
Yeah, I know I just bear with me a second. Just bear with me. No, you're right. 72nd scale. For some reason, I thought it was 48 scale, but well, there you go. See, memory playing tricks with you again.
Yes.
Hey ho.
And speaking of which, I see that that one of our Facebook friends is currently working on that monogram shuttle that we were chatting about a couple of months back.
Correcting it and everything.
Yeah, correcting it. I mean, posted some, John Chung, I think it is, isn't it? That's doing it. And he posted some photographs of this thing that he'd done today. I was like, oh, that's going to look epic when he's finished it. Because he did the Indigenous Fighter, didn't he? That was his last, the Taiwanese Indigenous Fighter, whatever that thing's called. And that was just such a beautiful model. And he's now working his magic on a shuttle. It's going to look great. It really is going
Actually,
to look.
you've just reminded me. I'm just calling it up there on the page here. Just bear with me a second. I'm also keeping an half an ear out because I'm sure I put the kettle on before the show, but I don't think I did.
You'd have heard it by now.
Yeah, I might not have put the lid down. Bear with me a second. I just need to go into the kitchen for a second. So entertain the good people for 5 minutes or 30 seconds.
No. So thanks everybody for joining us tonight. It's kind of a bit of a bespoke thing that we're doing this evening. We weren't really sure how we were going to go about all of this, and with everything else that's going on and all of the other work that we're trying to finish off. So thanks very much, John. Is that 118th? He did with my Tomcat parts.
What was that?
Mike Reeves. Yes, and Mike's online at the moment, and he. Where did I put those? While I've got Mike on here, we spoke about some old monogram kits. And do you remember I was talking about decals and how we've all got decal stashes? I would imagine decal designers have also got a decal stash as well. Probably lots of model decals and all of that kind of stuff. Well, I spoke to Mike and he's still on. Look what I found in the decal stash.
Oh, spads.
Spads for a monogram spad, and also I've got and also for David Irons, who sent me that monogram F8E that we had. I finally found a sheet. And also for the princely sum of $1.95, so it probably gives you an idea of how old this is, a set of stencil data for the F8. I haven't had a look at the instructions in this. You may well remember when Jeff Prentice used to review decals for scale models. He was always rather complimentary about the decal sheets that Microscale produced. He was less complimentary about their instruction sheets. And so this is the instructions that you get with this. You can.
Okay, yeah, it's workable. Yeah, it's workable. So what about the wings? All right, they give you the upper and lower surfaces. Yeah, okay.
I'm just wondering if I've got any. The instructions were always pretty horrific, weren't they? In microscale decal sheets. I'm just seeing if I can find an older one that's in here. I know I have some. So.
To answer the question, ladies and gentlemen, no, I had not left the kettle on.
So you can sort of see how they would kind of go about. That's effectively the instructions for data for an F-15 Eagle. So you get
okay.
Yeah, those drawings are absolutely tiny as well, and there's arrows going all over the place. So they certainly had their moments when it came to, and there aren't any instructions in that one. So yeah, so it kind of works nicely that I've got, you can sort of see, in fact, the letters on this sheet take up more space than the actual stencils. You can sort of see how they work, but there's certainly some nice color schemes on that sheet. They do look good, don't they? So I'm not sure which kit, whether or not these are designed and sized for the Hasegawa kit, or whether they're designed and sized for. Shall we find out? What a treat!
It is. This is like unboxings.
What a treat!
Kits that you didn't know I had, and this is
kind of going into. Well, look at that suggested kit.
Monogram.
Monogram F80. So there you go. So I have I've got a set of decals. So if David Irons is watching this, we have liftoff when it comes to decals.
You see, an F8 is again F8 is one of those subjects that I keep thinking I will get around to. If not now, then when? It's one of those subjects that I really do want to build one. But do you know what? Do you know what, mate?
Do you know what, mate?
Do you know what, mate? I wouldn't want to build a US Navy one. I would want to build one of those sexy blue-grey French Air Naval ones.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They're lovely.
They are lovely. And I don't know. I have here's an intriguing sort of part of my brain as well. This one includes a Shamrocks aircraft. That one there. I have a huge thing about anything being trimmed in green. I mentioned this. I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. There is something about emerald green, or that kind of green colour, that puts my teeth on edge, and I'm not sure why that is.
Oh, really? That's weird. Do you know what my favourite Harrier squadron is? Three Squadron. Squadron. I love that kind of green and yellow marking with the cockatrice on it and everything. I just think that's fabulous.
Yeah,
I think it really looks fabulous. It doesn't matter what version of Harrier it is, what colour scheme, dark green, dark sea grey, dark camouflage grey, dark sea grey, dark sea grey, I just think it looks fabulous. I think it just looks really nice colour scheme.
Yeah, yes. I don't know what it is. Pavel, I haven't ignored you. I'm just miles behind. I will.
Let's go back to what was the it's not answering the questions of our viewers, really. To get a grief. Let's just scroll back to the question Pavel asked, which was, and we're going back to. Good Lord, let's try and find what was the question Pavel asked. He's talking about the Echo there. This is why it's the midweek show. It's much more of a kind of like a loose
thing.
Sorry, Pavel, can't find your original question about F8E aftermarket stuff. What was the question about?
Yes,
F8E?
he put there. He said Spence didn't reply. I haven't. He sent me a message about some aftermarket that he has.
Oh, he hasn't asked it on the channel.
No. And I haven't dealt with that yet. So,
just going to say, I was just going to say about cut-off points for projects. This does sort of remind me of, this is going back that 20 years ago, when I was kind of for a brief while, I was working in Bristol. That I used to go and do. I did a life drawing class in the Folk House just up Park Street, and it was because I'd spent so long drawing with computers that I wanted to get back to doing, stuff by hand again. You see, and it was one of the things that it was the most bizarre thing was that other people in the class would only do one drawing, and they would be meticulous in doing that drawing. I worked in charcoal, and I would literally sketch the figure, and then I'd be like, no, that's rubbish. New page, do it again. And during the half-hour session, I would probably do about 10, 15 sketches of this figure. I wasn't putting any detail in or anything like that. I was just working to try and get proportions. And everything on them, and it was an observation. It's the thing that I often notice is people were doing one drawing, but they were overworking it to the point that they destroyed any kind of life to it. Whereas if you looked at sometimes people who were doing like 2 or 3 drawings a session, it would be the third one that they nail the proportions, but they get just the right amount of detail, almost impressionistic detail, that it actually looked alive. It actually had life to it. Everybody else's was just literally going over the line so much, it just destroyed. Same with music, that you can be recording something and you can be overdubbing and going back and doing things to the point that you absolutely kill whatever it was you were originally recording. And this is the joy about with digital recording, is if you always record in steps. If you're going to change something, save the previous one. I've done this, and I went back and found an earlier recording of a track, and it was like, I really liked the guitar sound in that, because it was like really rough and earthy, and the bass sound was really kind of like, it had that kind of Rickenbacker kind of clang to it. Why did I think what I did further down the mix was better? Because it wasn't. This was better. I was just like polishing and polishing and polishing. In the end, I polished through the paint, through the metal, out through the other side of it. And this is the thing about overworking projects.
I did the same thing. It's just one more layer. Just one more layer. And that one more layer kills the underlying...
Which is why I'm trying to strip things back on this thing, is just do minimal... I trust me, it's a promise, boys and girls. I will have that finished by Sunday.
I wish I could say I'd have something finished by Sunday. There is literally no chance of having anything finished by Sunday.
Still, you've got your tour to Somerset to look forward to in August. So,
do you know? Yeah, I mean, it's
come around quick enough.
Can't wait to be back.
Come around quick enough, because we're April, so January, February, March, April. The last 4 months for me have flown by, especially when you're kind of like a bit like yourself, when you've got regular deadlines, and I tend to have artwork deliveries kind of every 2 weeks, sometimes every 10 days. When you've got deadlines, time shoots by, because
I have to say that's become sort of more intensified recently, because before I would work in 4-week blocks. Now I'm working in 3-day blocks, because we do a Sunday show, a Wednesday show. Before I know it, it's Sunday again, which is obviously 4 days later. And then we revolve back. And then I've got my deadlines. I've got other deadlines that are coming along, other things that need to be done. And it's like running by the clock,
unfortunately, this is actually taking out at least a couple of hours of precious modelling time for us every week.
Indeed.
If we do occasionally have to go, sorry folks, can't do a show because we're really busy.
Yeah, I mean it's gonna
happen.
It's rapidly getting to that point where I think I'm going to need a 2-week break away from.
That's fine. We'll find somebody else. We'll get Derp to do the show. He'll
the Derpster. I have to say. I mean, it's not at the moment. It's not imminent, but certainly towards the summer, I think I'm going to be taking a.
But what I was going to say was that we're in April. That whole 4 months since the beginning of January has just shot by. Well, August is 4 months away from here. So
yeah. And by which time, I mean, my mum's been having her second vaccination on Saturday, so she's going to be fully vaccinated. And I think Liz's mum's already fully vaccinated. And my
mum's Friday. Hello, mum. Watching.
Hello, John's mum. And then my second vaccination will be second week in June, which is only not that long ago away, is it? For 8 weeks. So we'll be able to lick each other when we meet in August.
No, honestly,
there'll be hugs and ruffling of hair.
No, that is definitely not going to be happening. And I'm also going to employ a walking stick to still keep people. I'll tell you what, the great thing about social distancing is it's reaffirmed my belief that people should always stay more than 2 meters away from me.
Bit difficult when you're giving me a lift to Frome in the mighty Mini.
In the new one.
In the Binny.
Actually, I tell you, it's the weird thing today was that it still felt like I was driving the old one, and it's a completely different car. It is a totally different car, but it still felt the handling, especially those roads to go from here to Frome, because you're going up, you're skirting the Mendips, you're going through windy lanes, and you are constantly changing gear, and you're driving. You are actually having to drive a car, and it just felt like I was driving the green one, but.
The little green fella.
Yeah, so, but unfortunately, I've just discovered today. Unfortunately, I was looking forward on Friday to seeing, Big Lizard fight Big Monkey on big screen at Ashton Gate Drive-In Cinema. It's been cancelled.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I am determined not to see that film until I can see it on the big screen.
I can't believe that you waited so long. I would have thought that
That's
you'd have gone out and
no,
bought yourself a 50-inch TV so that you could watch it in your living room.
no. It's got to be seen at the cinema. So I'm just going to hold off. I don't want to watch it at home on television. I've got to see it on the big screen. Even I think what's going to happen is I think that when the cinemas do reopen, I think there are going to be selected films that are going to be put back on the cinema just to play catch up. And if that's the case, that's what I'm going to be doing. So
yeah, no,
well,
it'd be good. Right, bing!
Yeah, where is that? Where has that gone? That's a very good point. Where's my bell gone? It's gone.
The derp has had it.
He has. He's made off with it.
I have to say, I'm extremely disappointed because derp seems to have been an ever-present in various social media posts of late, and the fact that he hasn't, has he just like decided that tonight you're just
out in the garden because it's kind of like he's out in the garden because he's just likes being out there because it's like there's things and there's mice and movement and stuff, and he's there. He loves it out there. There's hedgehogs, although hedgehogs spook him.
yes.
Doesn't know what to make of them.
My mum used to have a Jack Russell, and he particularly liked hedgehogs. And despite the fact that every time he attacked one, he ended up with his mouth cut to pieces, it never put him off saying hello.
But you see, that's dogs. Unfortunately, and this is the moment I set all the dog owners. It was Eddie Izzard. Eddie Izzard once made the point about the difference between cats and dogs. He said, if you're putting up a shelf at home and you're kind of putting the shelf up, he said the dog will be sat there like this, kind of like, and the dog will be, I don't know what you're doing, but I love you. You see? He said, you're putting up a shelf at home, the cat will be there, and the cat will be going, no, one side's that's not right. Yeah, you don't know what you're doing, mate. And it's like, it's definitely true. Cats only have to do something once, and they'll think, well, that's not worth it. Dogs chase cars.
Yes. Well, that's it. Somebody had said, try locking your dog in the see who loves you the most. Lock your girlfriend in the boot if you can't drive for 100 miles, or lock your dog in. Dogs just love you whatever you do to them, don't they? They just.
And it was also Jeremy Hardy, the late great Jeremy Hardy, who I adored. I saw him live a couple of times. I just adored the guy. He made the point about the difference between dogs and cats. He said, if you fell down the stairs and kind of like broke your back, he said, and you were kind of like lying there pleading, your dog would be nudging the phone towards you in order for you to dial 999, you see. He said, whereas a cat would just sit there with a rather annoyed expression, wondering how hungry it would have to get before it ate your face. And it's like...
It's absolutely true. It is absolutely true. I mean, we've got... our next door neighbour's got the most incredible dog. I mean, it is just the most bonkers thing. But it's just hyper intelligent. Just it does what it wants. It pretty much runs the place, and then it looks at you with that. I'm going to come into your house, and I am going to wander around, and I'm probably going to pee up your wall as well. And you can't do anything about that. So, and we have cats are the same. They're just
Mike Williams makes a very good point. Cats have staff, dogs have masters.
Yeah, it's true.
Yes, that's true. That's very true. Right, right, let's try it again. Any other business? No. Right, jolly good. So on that note, in fact, I just found something really exciting to talk about on. I'm going to talk about tonight, but I'm actually going to save it for Sunday night. It's like awesome model from these people, Dream Model. I just seen it on their Facebook page, and I went, oh, that's fantastic. So we'll talk about that on Sunday. So that's it, really. Thank you to everybody for turning up tonight. Bless you from the bottom of my heart. It really is very kind of you to kind of, indulge these two gas giants on a Wednesday evening.
Gaseous giants.
So we'll be back on Sunday with the news program. We'll be back with the news program again. So thank you, everybody who's watching tonight. Mr. P, good luck with your project. Wink, wink. Good luck with that. Good luck with that, because I do know how it's just a little bit testing at the moment. I think it's a good way of putting it.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I think when it's done, I'll be more than happy. But I hate it when I make it. When something goes south and it's out of your control. It's like it's like, you know, driving a car on ice and you just
I
hold
was
on
just
to
going
the
to
steering
say
wheel.
it's a bit like you having your holiday in Cornwall, and at the moment you are stuck on the M5 in a traffic jam.
Oh God, yes.
Yeah,
Like last
so,
year for
yeah.
a 10-hour journey when it could have taken. Yes, it's exactly like that. The only difference is that in this case, I don't have Elizabeth sitting next to me listening to Radio 2, singing to all of the songs, particularly David's Soul. That's the only difference. It is that frustrating.
Do I answer that? They're all sat there going,
No.
no. Right, on that note, we'll see you Sunday. Take care. Stay out of trouble. It's good night from me.
And it's good night from him.
Him. Good night.